everyone.
Good evening. Happy New Year.
Tuesday and New Year.
Oh yeah. Oh, she's done one already. I haven't done it live yet. Happy New Year from me and happy Tuesday from her.
You got a special Frankie, Shayne, and Kate Elaine.
That's right. Normally this is a Thursday gig. But
yeah.
Tonight it's I'm a special guest, I guess.
You are. Welcome to Tuesday night training.
Thank you.
Product training.
Yeah,
We're
this will be fun.
happy to have you. We're doing from cow or chicken to capsule today, and we hooked Shayne in. You know, with all the fishing metaphors we've done before.
Yeah.
To come in today and teach us a little bit about the process of cow or chicken to capsule. To teach us more about transfer factor, because there's a lot of interesting things that happen. You know, you think about transfer factors and the fact that we already have them in our bodies. Is it most animals have transfer factors?
Yep.
So, and they're not species specific. So, you know, one transfer factor in one being is, you know, works, entity
body
works the same as
our own.
The others, they're just more educated.
Right.
So
the only difference is the information. And your body you can't be allergic to information.
Right.
And you can't have a negative response.
Yes.
To it. Well, psychologically we can, but your body does not have a negative response to the information.
Right.
They're non-species specific. They're bioidentical to what your own body produces. Your body doesn't reject them in any way because it does assimilate that information, but it doesn't have any resistance to the coding, if you will, because it's identical. So those are all benefits.
One question we get asked a lot, which we'll address towards the end of this presentation, or maybe even during the middle of it, if it ends up coming up, is if I am allergic to milk or eggs or anything that comes from cows or chickens, am I able to take this? So we will be answering that.
We will address that.
Yes. At the end, if you have any questions as this is going on, or if this already has ended, leave your questions in the comments below and we will be happy to address them.
Absolutely. Okay. So first off, thank you for inviting me.
You are welcome. Anytime.
Essentially, 4Life Research owns several herds of cattle all throughout the United States. They have them strategically placed in different areas. Now, this goes the same with the chickens. Okay. The chickens are the same way. They have different chicken hatcheries and flocks all over the United States. Now, the reason for this is that in different areas of the United States, there are different types of bacteria. There are different types of allergens. There are different types of viruses that are specific to those areas. You know, in the South, you've got a lot more humidity, you've got a lot more mosquitoes, you've got a lot more gnats, you've got a lot more bugs and creepy crawlies down there because of the humidity. And so there are different types of viruses and bacteria down there than you may experience when you're up, say, around Michigan, where, you know, you have the Great Lakes, but you have these really drastic winters. You know, lakes freeze over and you fish on the lake all winter. I mean, that's a vast difference from the South. And then you have the East Coast versus the West Coast. All of these different areas are hosts to different types of bacteria, different types of spores, different types of allergens, you name it. Not to mention the parasites and the bugs and mosquitoes and all these things that carry things to you and from you. So it was important that they be able to target the transfer factor to cover all of those things. So they have placed these cattle and these chickens in various strategic areas so that they are exposed to these things. Now, that is the very heart of transfer factor. It teaches your body about all of these things. So the more information it gathers, the better protected you become. Okay. So now let's go through the process. Now we know that they're out there, they're all over, they're exposed to these things. They are free range. They are, they're which one I'm looking for, antibiotic. Now, here's the thing. It is important that at some time in that cow's life that it has had antibiotics, but the program that they're in with us, once they're entered into our program, at that point, there's no more antibiotics used. Okay. The reason that's important, antibiotic resistant strains of virus. Okay. Those are becoming more prevalent. And so the fact that the information about antibiotics and the way that affects the system is in that cow's transfer factors is actually good for us.
Right.
So wanted to make that side note.
Mhm.
In our program, no antibiotics are used, but many of these cows and these farmers that we are in concert with for these cattle prior to our program may have had them treated, and
Right.
that's fine. That's actually good for us. That helps us out.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're taken care of in a very friendly way. And when I say friendly, I'm talking about, PETA and people of this nature. They're going to want to know they were ethically treated,
Mhm.
that they were taken care of, that it's organic, they were organically fed, they're free range, they're not in some little cow, in little cages or anything like that. Once the cow gives birth to a calf, that's when the production of colostrum is at the greatest. It's really the only time it's available in the cow's milk. Okay, the first few weeks or so after the calf is born. So the first thing that's taken care of is the calf. The calf is first made sure to get all of the transfer factor, all the colostrum it needs to survive and be healthy. They generally produce 5 times more colostrum than what they use. So, or than what needs used by the calf. So once the calf is taken care of, then the colostrum is then taken in a normal milking process. One of these machines that hooks up and just milks it for you.
Mhm.
There is no chemicals involved. The cow is not harmed in any way. Everything is done in a very natural, very ethical way. The cows are treated with the utmost because, we want to make sure that the cows then can reproduce later down the road, and we can use that cow for more colostrum down the road. So once this is all done, then the transfer factor, or the colostrum, I should say, that is taken from those cattle are flash frozen, which means right away, boom, frozen. Okay. Then that preserves it with all the nutrients that are in there that are needed, everything. Then that transfer factor is sent to our laboratories in Sandy, Utah. Okay. Sandy, Utah, we have our own manufacturing facilities. We have our own research and development facilities. We have our own distribution facilities, everything. From the fact that it comes in as colostrum till the time it leaves as a capsule, our hands are on it at all points.
Right.
Okay.
And there's over 20 purity tests or something.
Right. There's over 20 different points of quality control
Right.
with every single batch.
Right.
There is no random batch testing. It's not like, well, 1 out of every 50, let's test it. No, every single batch is tested. Okay. They're tested for efficacy. They're tested for quantities to make sure everything's holding. They have also been tested several times since the initial study to prove that the amount of power and intelligence within the immune system and the way the effects on the immune system have remained after all these years. 23 years, still the same potential, still the same numbers.
Right.
Okay. The same thing goes with the chicken. Of course, the chicken has an egg. There's nothing weird goes on there. The eggs are then taken, and then the yolk of the egg is actually where the colostrum is going to be. Because what most people don't understand is when you see an egg, a lot of people think that the chicken comes from the yolk, but the yolk is actually what the chicken feeds on. The chicken, if you ever crack an egg open, you see the yolk and you see the white of the egg, and then you see this little, looks like white film in there.
Mhm.
That's actually where the chicken develops from.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the colostrum is within the yolk of the egg. So again, that's taken normally, shipped to our facility. Same thing is done. The process of extraction then begins where they take the transfer factors from the yolk and implement it into our product. Okay. So back to the cow, the original form, the colostrum. So now it's been taken from the cow, who has been treated ethically, has been fed free range, given, what's the word, organic foods and organic feeds and things, that is then frozen after it's extracted, shipped to our facility. Our facility then takes all of the transfer factor from all of these cows and all these chickens, the yolks from all these different areas, and it's put into a giant soup, like a vat. Okay. This soup essentially is so that every single transfer factor capsule has information on all of these things from all over the place, so that you're getting full protection when you take the transfer factor. So then once it's taken and put into that, then the transfer factors are actually extracted from the colostrum. Again, there are no chemicals used. It's a pressurized system. So what they do is they take the transfer factor, they thaw it out, Once it's thawed back into the serum, which looks a lot like urine. It's a real thick, like a yellowish kind of look. The serum is then taken, put into a pressurized system and pushed through a tiny little, for lack of a better description, a tiny shower head essentially. But this thing, I think it's 1,000 point something microns. I forget the exact number, but it's 1/1000th the thickness of a human hair is what it was described as.
Yeah, that's really small.
So it's tiny. And the only molecules small enough to make it to that filtration system once that's pressurized are the transfer factor molecules and the nanofactors, which is another thing I'll get into in a minute. So that's pressurized. All this pressure is put on it. This filtration system or filtration head is there. The only thing small enough to come out the other side is transfer factors. So now you have pure transfer factors in this serum form. So then it's put into what they call a spray dryer, which is a very, very low heat. It sprays this out into this giant rotunda type of vat that's funnels. And once it's sprayed in there at this low heat, it dries. When it dries, it becomes a powder. The powder is then the form of transfer factor that we see in the capsule. Okay. So essentially what's happening is what you're seeing is that there's from cow to capsule, there is no outside synthetic interference chemically. Okay. So it's completely pure transfer factor. It's completely ethically taken from the cow. The cows are treated with the utmost care. The chickens the same way. Now, one thing I want to express too is that we now have a whole line of products that are transfer factor specific products, right? Like TF Cardio, Belv, TF Melpro, TF Vista, TF Glucoach, TF Collagen, yes, thank you. Renuvo, all of these are transfer factor specific products. So people say, well, how do you make them specific? Well, what we do is the cows are exposed to a specific dead bacteria, just like a vaccination. Dead bacteria that their body then sees as a threat and creates information, it creates a response to that specific thing. So what we're doing now is, again, in a very ethical way, we're not harming the animals in any way. They're not getting sick, they're not dying. This is it's dead bacteria that's specific to what we're needing immunity to, giving it to them. They're creating the transfer factors for it. Those transfer factors then have that information. So it follows the same process. The only difference is that in that situation, those herds that have been chosen for that part of the program are specifically giving something to target what we need the transfer factors to be specific to. So again, it goes from the cow to the colostrum serum to the serum going to our studios, I almost said, to our manufacturing facilities, our R&D department. Then it is filtered down into a powder. That powder is then put into the capsule. The capsule is then put into bottles. Bada boom, bada bing. That's where we get our product. So the thing about that, and the reason we feel that that's important for you to know, is there, as I mentioned, there's always going to be someone out there who is going to try and just put an obstacle up. And they're just going to say, well, what about this? What about that? Now, you brought up something very interesting, because this comes up probably more often than people want to know that the cows are okay, is I have a lactose intolerance, or I have a sensitivity to eggs. How am I going to work with this? How is this going to work for me? Well, here's the thing with transfer factors, that it is 100% extracted from colostrum, and it is only the transfer factor molecule. There's no dairy, there's no lactose, there's none of that. It is just the transfer factor molecule. I liken it to a vitamin C tablet. It's not got any part of the orange or the pulp or any of that, but it's the concentrated part of that orange that helps us the most. Now, you could take a vitamin C capsule, or you could eat a bag of oranges every day. You know, which would you rather do? The transfer factor is the same way. In order to get the amount of transfer factor that you get in one capsule, I believe you'd have to take 90 times that in colostrum to get the same amount. And the thing is colostrum is considered a form of milk. So by FDA standards, it does have to be pasteurized, and many of the transfer factor molecules do not survive that.
Right.
So even if you take 90 of them to get the same amount, the effectiveness of those transfer factors may still not be there. They
So
can still
work
be dead.
smarter and not harder.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's just one of those things where people just need to understand that, because some people, another opposition you may have when you're explaining about the products, people say, well, whole foods are always the best. So I would rather get the whole colostrum than get the transfer factors from it.
Right.
Again, explain to them that colostrum is still considered a dairy product, and a dairy product of any kind has to be pasteurized.
Right.
And when it's pasteurized, that's high heat, it's killing bacteria. Many of the transfer factor molecules don't survive.
Yeah.
They die in the process. So those are some things to keep with you when you're talking about the way the product is manufactured, knowing that there are ethical practices in place, knowing that the cattle are taken care of, that the young are taken care of. All of these things may come up when talking to someone. Now, none of it may ever come up.
Right.
But this is still good information that could be useful to you. And sometimes giving this information when someone asks a question that gives you the opportunity to share some of this, sometimes that influences a person because they can see you have done your homework.
Right.
And you know what you're talking about. You're not just trying to sell a product or using the product as a way to just get them to buy.
Right.
Because sometimes people, when they hear network marketing or they hear any type of home-based business, their guard goes up.
Oh, yeah.
And so when they can see that you're not just, well, I don't need to know about the product, neither do you, just join.
Right.
When they can see you actually know this information, many times that influences people more to listen to what you have to say. So,
Well, and it's kind of sad that the networking industry has such a bad rap because products like transfer factor that are in the networking industry, it's like it can take some convincing to get somebody who is interested in taking care of themselves to give the product a chance, even with all the credibility that transfer factor has, even all the credibility that our company has and their specific products have with, the University of Missouri, Auburn University, Weber State University, journals that our own studies have been published in.
right.
The fact that our products are used by the Russian Ministry of Health, the fact that our products are listed in the prescriber's digital reference or the physician's desk reference, which is used by hundreds of thousands of medical professionals. It's even with all that credibility, the networking industry has this apprehensive.
There's a stigma about it.
It's sad. And maybe even you are a product user and this video was sent to you by a 4Life affiliate to kind of help you understand what the process is of getting transfer factors from the cow or the chicken to the capsule. And maybe this answered some of your questions. And if so, that is awesome. If you have more questions, obviously just leave them in the comments. We stay on top of our comments. So just leave it in the comments and it will get addressed. One thing I wanted to mention, because you actually answered 2 of my questions that I wrote down on my phone as you were talking, is like if somebody is vegetarian or vegan, if they can take the products. I think usually there's 2 reasons that you could be a vegetarian or a vegan. One is for diet and one is for ethical reasons.
Right.
If you are a vegan or a vegetarian for diet, then this product is something, and these products are something to take into consideration on whether you feel like this adds enough to your diet that you're willing to take this product. Because like we said, it doesn't have dairy in it. It doesn't have eggs, but it's made from eggs and made from dairy. It's a component from the dairy, from the egg. It's not egg or dairy. So
but it's identical to what your body already produces. It's bioidentical. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing, but from an outside source.
It's like a nutrient. And it's a completely different
we have
category.
veggie caps too.
Yes.
So
good
if
point.
someone says, hey, I can get over the fact that it's from there, but I can't have gel caps because again, that's a byproduct of animal. Well, we have veggie caps.
Yes.
So if that is truly your apprehension, we also have an alternative there.
And we have a lot of different ways for you to be able to consume transfer factors. We have capsules. What are they? Veggie caps?
Veggie caps.
We have gel. So like Rio Vita Burst, which has antioxidants in it as well. We have Rio Vita sticks that are antioxidants. It's powder stick. We have prebiotics that has transfer factor in it that also helps with your gut.
Pro-TF, which I use all the time.
Right, Pro-TF. We have NutriStart, that's kind of like a meal replacement that also has transfer factors in it.
The Ghost sticks have it.
Ghost sticks that can give you some extra oomph in your energy levels. We have a lot of different products that feature transfer factors in them. So capsule is not the only way that you have to take it. So if you're interested in adding this to your diet, then as a vegetarian, you know, that is something you can consider if it's more so on the diet side and also as a vegan on the diet side. As far as ethics go, obviously we leave that up to you. In some cases, we have had vegans and vegetarians make exceptions for themselves because of the effect the products have in their health and well-being. Because I know personally for me, I really tried to be vegan for a good couple of months. And I know that vegans are going to look at this video and be like, oh yeah, good try, a great effort for a couple of months because of health reasons for myself. It was a little bit more it was a balance of health and ethics. But I also kept taking the products because I had experience with taking the products and what they did for me. So I kind of feel like it's kind of like a toss up for you if you're, you know, it's just something to consider on both sides of the equation.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's enough science there that even people who have an ethical issue with it, because those tend to be the people that are trying to find reasons why it's not going to work for them. I mean, I'll be honest with you. When I've talked to people who are doing it more for diet because they have an intolerance to that, once they hear the information, they usually are willing to try the product. 9 times out of 10, they come back later and say, I haven't had any issues taking this product, but it's great. It's working great. The people that are doing it for ethical reasons, many times they've got their mind made up, and the minute they hear the word cow or chicken, they don't want anything to do with it. But once the people that I've seen in that situation, when they know that the cows and chickens are not harmed, see, that's the reason a lot of people don't eat meat, because they're like, I'm eating the animal. Okay, these animals aren't harmed. Their young are not harmed. They're given everything they need. So they really lose a little bit of ground there too, because they're not taking something in that respect. But when it becomes, well, it's from an animal and I don't even want to do that, then it becomes an issue.
We respect it.
Yeah, we totally respect it. But like Kate said, it becomes an issue of, well, you need to take a look at your health and where you're at. And if eating this way is helping you, that's great. But if you're still having issues and this has the potential to help, you just have to make that decision for yourself. But we have tried to make it so that when people are doing it, like you said, from a dietary standpoint,
there's a lot of options.
There's a lot of options. And, you know, Transfer Factor 4Life's been around for 23 years now. This year will be 24, actually. So nice. In October, I believe. So 4Life's been around now for this year will be 24 years. And in all that time, Transfer Factor has remained at the forefront of our flagship products. We have different forms of it, but it all boils down to Transfer Factor. A lot of companies can't say that. The reason a lot of companies have such a hard time saying that is because their products typically tend to be something that's fresh and new, but it's not exclusive. And so after it's on the market for a few years, another company picks it up, throws their name on it, you know, things like that. With us, it's exclusive. The process that I explained to you tonight is part of the reason that our companies stay at the forefront, because most companies don't want to spend the money to own their own herds, to do their own manufacturing, to buy the equipment, which is very expensive, and it's a very tedious, very precise process to get the product to where it's at. When I explain it, it sounds easy. It sounds like, oh, you just pressurize it and push it through this thing. It's not so simple as that. That's the layman's kind of, you know, that's a very generalized way of saying it. I'm sure that the guys on the science board would probably say, well, you got the gist of it, but there's so much more to it than that. And it's a very tedious, very expensive process. 4Life knew when they started that they were putting this product on the market and they would be functioning in the red for the first several years. They knew that there was not as big of a profit margin in this product as other products out there, but they believed, but they believed in what it did. They saw the power of what it did. They saw the potential of what it could do, and they were passionate about that. And that is why the product has remained at the forefront and remained at the top for so long. There's no other copycat transfer factor products. There's hyperimmunized colostrum. There are products that claim to help the immune system. Nothing out there is what transfer factor is.
It's a completely different category of nutrition.
Exactly. Transferceutical science. We pioneered that whole segment of nutrition because there was no other way to lump us in with anything else. You couldn't just say immuno products or immunotherapies and things. It was more specific than that because we were not only boosting the immune system like vitamin C or
That's not my idea.
Oh no. There's
should
that
look
look.
through the history of transfer factor sometime.
Oh yeah,
That's one
that'd
of
be
the
fun.
trainings.
That'd be fun.
And the history of 4Life because you've been around.
Kind of have.
You've been, how many conventions do you feel like you've been to?
I don't, there's some that I see pictures I don't remember even being at. I've even been to some international conventions. I was at the first international convention in South America, which was in Mexico City. I was the first one they did of that, which was like 2 years ago, prior to COVID and everything. I've been.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
Forgot about that.
Yeah, and it's funny because I don't speak hardly any
You're like,
Spanish.
yeah.
And everyone's walking up to me speaking, and I'm like, okay, yeah.
So you would have some stuff though that you could share about things that have been like studies that they talked about at the previous conventions.
There's some things out there, and I've actually in my phone, I have hundreds of pictures from that one where they released stuff, and I took pictures of the slides that come up on the screen. I couldn't understand all of it, but it was in English. But they were speaking it in Spanish, so I'd have to listen to what they're saying, seeing, okay, because sometimes they would speak English and their accent was so thick you couldn't tell it. So I was taking screenshots of different things. So
well, maybe sometimes even on just some spotlight products trainings, then if you have some things to share on them, because I think that maybe if we don't end up doing the history of transfer factors next week, it'll be Rio Vita.
Okay, cool.
So also I wanted to mention, if you're interested in learning more about the process of transfer factors, even what transfer factors are, how they work in your body. You can hear that from one of 4Life's research and development scientists, Dr. Brent Vaughn, from the first Ignite training that they did. Lauren and I recorded that. He is so brilliant. And you know somebody is brilliant when they can take something that is super complex and break it down to where you can understand it.
Put it in kindergarten terms.
And he does really good at that. So it's actually on our DiamondsR4Life YouTube channel. If you just type in Ignite, one of those should be Dr. Brent Vaughn, and it is a recording of us in the crowd, so it's not like awesome audio, but you should be able to hear what's being said, and it has such awesome information in it. I highly recommend anybody who is a learning, you enjoy learning, to take some time to go and listen to that. It's about 30 minutes, but it's a good 30 minutes.
And it doesn't feel like 30 minutes.
Right.
He's very good at the way he lays it out. And so even though it takes time to get from point A to point B because of all the intricacies of it, he says it in such a way that's easy to follow.
So easy to follow. And there's a little bit of a surprise at the very end of that video. FYI. So
all right.
Okay, I think that was it for today. Thank you, Shayne, for coming on the product training. We're gonna have to have you on here more often.
I will. I'm available. Just let me know.
I'll be texting you.
But we will also see you on Thursday.
Yes, 8 p.m.
For some prospecting training, and we talked about what that was going to be, and I don't remember now.
We'll nail out the details.
We'll hammer it out anyway. So we will see you guys again on Thursday,
Yes.
And until then, thank you guys so much for tuning in and for listening. And so our sign out for our other one is, this is Frankie Shayne and Kate Elaine, and we are out.